Alright everyone, so I'm back and honestly I've said my piece with there, so let's move on. Yeah, the new Spiral Abyss has got lots of cryo enemies in the first half and obviously a bit of a mixed bag on the second half. So what should you do? Well, I'll just give you some tips and tricks for this one and we'll sort of talk a bit about Ayaka and Shenhe because they're obviously coming very soon in terms of their reruns. So yeah, what do you want to do? Well, the second half is actually pretty well suited to a typical freeze team, so that's what you can see right there on the screen. And obviously on the first halves you are going to be using your Bennett, your Xiangling, your Xingqiu, your Kazuha, whatever. I'm not actually going to do that. I'm just going to do whatever I can or whatever I like because, well, that's just me. But the whole point is I just sort of want to give you an indication of more or less what you should be doing. So Bennett, Kazuha, Xiangling first halves and then freeze on the second half, and you'll have a very comfortable time in the Spiral Abyss. So this is the one thing that was kind of irritating for me about this version. Ideally, you'd want to run Daya. Obviously, the Spiral Abyss buff card is for Daya and all these sorts of things. But unfortunately, the developers kind of, well, I think probably intentionally, sort of did Daya a bit dirty in this sense because, well, just like Raiden Shogun, your coordinated attacks don't trigger on enemy shield. So it is actually kind of not that good to bring Daya on the first halves, but you can bring Klee instead because on her own, she's just Klee's Klee. She applies more power than anything in the game, but in any case. Right, so here we are now in the second half, so you just want to dash here quickly, group up the enemies with your Kazuha or Sucrose, whatever. Kokomi, pass on Tenacity buff to Ayaka. If you've got the Ayaka Mispetter, you just do dash in one hit, otherwise you just do roll Elemental Burst. Here's Kokomi, you can finish off whatever enemies there are left to finish off, and then you start the whole process of battering up your team again. So yeah, if you follow what I did more or less on screen, that's what you can do. As for these guys, they are pretty random. They're always like difficult to sort of group and so on. So the best advice I can give is if you can't freeze them in the middle, try and run towards some sort of corner and then you can sort of like try and take them out. It is best to just keep them frozen because if they hit you, they will inflict some sort of hydra onto your characters and then your cooldowns will be extended, and that's not a very pleasant place to be in. But in any case, yeah, if you've got one of them frozen, you can just sort of use Ayaka and she will just absolutely melt them. The other cool thing about Ayaka, of course, is a little party trick. So if you don't know, Ayaka can indefinitely free some of these enemies because if you dash and you exit your dash while hitting an enemy or applying cryo to them, you are restored or refunded Ayaka stamina, so you can pretty much just keep someone indefinitely frozen here. So this is kind of a little fun party trick. I just thought I might just show this. It is kind of hilarious and entertaining, but yeah, that is Ayaka for you. So if you like a pretty comfortable, pretty strong meta team, well, this is more or less what you'll pick. I know most people would prefer Kazuha instead of Sucrose, but I don't have Kazuha, so that is more or less it. The second floor is pretty straightforward. I think this is the most reasonable floor of all these Spiral Abysses. I don't like the fact that you've got enemies that require specific elemental applications on two floors on the same chamber. I just don't like that. It's better if it's on one sort of, let's say, floor and then on another floor you get, but it's, I don't know, whoever designed this current Spiral Abyss really didn't do a good job. But in any case, so assuming you're running your Bennett and your Xiangling and your Kazuha, you should more or less be finished with Magokenki in about 920, something like that. I don't know, it depends on your account. But assuming you've now totally destroyed him, we can get now back to the cool little action. And just as before, you dash here with your little, oh, you first collect the particles, my bad. And before you get to once you got the particles, you now just quickly little dash here with Shenhe. You try and group up the enemy. So this is where Kazuha has a bit of a better kind of like, or a better, yeah, his grouping is better than Sucrose. So yeah, you can end up like me with enemies that are, despite the fact that you try to group them up, they're all over the show. That's just the nature of Sucrose. Sometimes she really works well and sometimes she can be a bit of a pain. I think this is the cool other thing as well about Kazuha, is the fact that you can stand in one spot and sort of pull in enemies, whereas with Sucrose you have to stand at a distance or position in front of them in order to get that desired effect. And obviously since Kazuha like swirl depends on where you stand, you have much more benefit than where with Sucrose, where you might intend to swirl in one direction but something else goes on and she swirls in the complete wrong place. Whatever. Yeah, a lot of people have complained about the big Geo Shield here. In my opinion, you just Ayaka it and it will eventually disappear. And there we go, and now you can just sort of finish up and battery for the next floor. Now, I must also obviously mention the fact that there are different ways of playing this Pyro Abyss. Most notably, Hyper Bloom is very, very strong, and obviously if you've got Nahida and Kokomi and Nila Bloom, teams can just absolutely wreck the second half as well. So there are definitely options, though I'd recommend using Kuki Shinobu if you're going to do a Hyper Bloom instead of Raiden Shogun, just because of that first half and those little Hydro enemies. So that's just a little extra tidbit I want to sort of add in. As usual, we just pick a bit of health, we do a little Nahida thing, and we'll just quickly take out the little Ruin Guard. This should be pretty easy, straightforward for most people. You tag these two enemies, you can then run back into a corner, you can then start applying your pyro, doing all your setups and so on. So you can see I'm just having a bit of fun playing with Yai, refreshing Nahida's little Temple of Wisdom, whatever. And there we go, I'm going to smack all these enemies, it's going to be pretty cool. And, oh, yeah, I lost my Yai, so now Raiden is completely mad that her girlfriend's dead, so she's just going to quickly smack these guys. So generally what you want to do is aim for about 9-10 on the clock here. If you're using Xiangling or Kazuha or whatever, you can certainly do so. And then that'll give you 2 phases against the little flying Anemo thingamabob right here. So my first big tip against this thing is to try and swirl an element against him, because even though he has high resistance, your VV buff will still apply, so you can still do a bit of like chip damage. The idea being doing 10% of his health and chip damage right now, 40% during his first phase when he like falls down, and then of course you can rinse and repeat, and within the full time frame you'll be able to like take care of him. So this is why I kind of recommend that you try and do the first half in about 50 seconds, or have like 9:50 on the clock, because that'll give you 2 phases like this where he just goes into the air and you can knock him down and so on. Obviously we're just going to do it in one single little phase. But yeah, that is it for this little quick little Spiral Abyss. That's the little tips I can give you, and of course always just finish with your Kokomi Elemental Burst. Right, that's it from my side. Yeah, thanks for watching. Cheers.